I'm just going to now go and talk about multiplying real numbers. What I've drawn right here is the multiplication and division triangle. It's pretty cool. And so basically, if you want to know the sign when you multiply or divide numbers, you can always use this triangle right here. You say, what do you mean? Well, say if I wanted to multiply, for example, 7 times negative 2. So if I multiply a positive, because 7 is positive, so if I multiply a positive by a negative 2, in this case just a negative, so a positive times a negative. So if I multiply a positive times a negative, if I multiply these together, my result is a negative. Or if I go positive and negative, then I get negative. So say if I want to multiply a negative times a negative. So if I multiply a negative times a negative, then my result is a positive. Cool, huh? Yeah, so you can use this triangle as a way to know just what it doesn't tell you what the answer is, but at least it tells you the sign, which is halfway part of doing these problems here. Okay, so 7 times negative 2 is a negative 14. 7 times 2 is 14, but then because we do a positive and negative, bam. Negative 0.09 times 15. You may need to do this if you don't have a calculator. I'm going to first just multiply 15 times 0.9. So 9 and 5 is 45. And then multiply this and then get 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And if you remember here, the way that you deal with this is you say, how many times do we need to move this decimal to put it back in its 10th place? So if I moved it over once, then I have to move this over once. And there we go. One of the ways that you can think about this is like you say, how many times do you have to move the decimal place to make this a whole number? So if I moved it over one time, but then you also have to move it over just like that. And you always start from the right side, by the way, when you move your decimal over. So 13.5. Now, let's look at the sign. Negative times a negative. A negative times a negative is a positive, so that would be a positive 13.5. Okay? What about this little guy right here? Well, check this out. The way that you can think about this now is, I'm just going to rewrite it right here, negative 5/8 times 16. You can think of this. See, here 16 is in the numerator, and then 8 is in the denominator. So that means that we can divide, actually, 8 divides into 16 twice. So that means 8 divided by 8 is 1. 16 divided by 8 is 2. So really, this now becomes negative 5 times 2 is a negative 10, and then 1 times 1 is just 1, but that's not necessary. You see, like, we don't have to put a 1 right here, so I'm just going to erase that and then just put negative 10. Okay. The other way that you could have thought about this problem, I'm going to do this in blue here, is you could have done this instead, which I don't recommend. You could have actually multiplied straight across 15 times 16. So if we do that, so we get 30, so we get 8, so that means you get negative 80 over 8. How did I get that? Look, negative 15 times 16 is negative 80. 8 times 1 is 8. Now how many times does 8 go into negative 80? Well, it goes into a negative 10 times, which we got right here. But see, I mean, you have to do a little bit bigger multiplications and all that. So if you can divide something by the top and bottom, go ahead and do that. You're actually simplifying first. Again, we're going to multiply 1.2 times 7. So let's just first do it with its positives, and then we'll look at the sign. So 7, 2 is 14. 7, 8. Now again, we had to move this. Oh, I'm sorry, this was 0.7. So check this out. About the whole moving the decimal. We moved it over once, moved this over once, so it's a total of 2 times. So starting here, 1, 2. So 0.84. You know, let's just do the last example here, example number 7 in this section. And this is division. And again, you use the same little triangle here if that's kind of helpful to you. So plus, minus, minus. So for example, if I divide a negative by negative, then I get a positive. So 15 divided by 3 is 5, and a negative divided by negative is a positive. Bing! Oh snaps, check out this hairiness right here. We got a fraction divided by a fraction. You say, what the? This is crazy. Okay, so check this out. I'm going to give you the rule right now. If I have A over B, divide that by C over D. Let me just give you what the rule is, and then I'll explain how it works. Then the answer is just simply A over B, multiply that by D over C. So you're going to take the reciprocal. Reciprocal means you flip it. That means the C goes on the bottom, see? And the D goes on top, and then you multiply. But I'll show you. Let's just do the problem real quick, and then I'll explain where this comes from if you're interested. So if we just follow this rule right here, then the answer would be negative 3/8 times 16 over 11. See how I flip this? Also known as the reciprocal. So 16 goes on top, and 11 goes on the bottom. Now remember what I said on the previous problem up here. If there's a common number that goes into the denominator or the bottom number and the numerator or the top number, then let's go ahead and divide them. So 8 goes into both of these. So 8 goes into 8 2 times. 16 goes into 8. I'm sorry, 8 divided by 8 it goes into it 1 time. So let's try that again. 1 time. And then 16 divided by 8 goes into it twice. So negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6. 1 times 11 is 11. Okay, so let me just show you where this rule comes from, if you're interested. But really, I mean, this rule does always work if you're interested in where this comes from. And so let's just do a little something over here. So say if I gave you a problem like 9 divided by 3. Okay, you know that division is actually a multiplication problem, meaning this can be thought of as 3 times what? I'm going to use x for the what. 3 times what is 9, right? Isn't that what this means? 9 divided by 3, the answer is 3, right? Well, 3 times what is 9? Well, 3. Okay, so just think about that one little small facet. That is, a division problem can be written as a multiplication problem. Okay, so watch this. Let's take the same problem now right here. Okay. And I'm going to move this guy. Just move him over here for right now. Okay. So watch this. I'm going to turn this problem right here into a multiplication problem. And remember, like, I'm just going to use this as my model. That means I'm going to take this 11 over 16 times what, right? Remember, 3 times what is equal to 9. So 11, 16 times what is equal to negative 3/8. Hopefully you're following me right there. I'm just taking the same model I did here, but now it just has these weird fractions. So 11, 16 times what is negative 3/8. Okay? So if I wanted to solve now for x, like if I want to get x all by itself, I would need to get rid of 11 over 16. Well, the way that you do that is you would multiply by its reciprocal. I mean, I'm going to multiply that by 16 over 11. Multiply that by 16 over 11. You say, why are you doing that? Check it out. 11 on top and 11 on the bottom. Well, bam, cross those out. 16 on top, 16 on the bottom. Well, bam, cross those out, and that's why you're left with just x. So the number that you're trying to find, the answer is negative 3/8 times 16 over 11. Hey, look up here. Negative 3/8 times 16 over 11. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. That's where this rule comes from. But if you just want to memorize this rule right here, you will be good to go. So, okay, let's see if we'll finish these guys here. So this guy right here, I'm just going to straight do the rule. Negative 10/3 times 8 over 3. Right? So 3 and 8, none of those numbers go into each other. 3 and negative 10, they don't go into each other. So really we can just multiply straight across. So negative 80 over 9. Okay? I just want you to don't think that there's any difference between these two. These are the exact same problem. I can rewrite this as 3/4 divided by negative 7 over 16. See how this is the same as that? I just took this division symbol and made it a fraction bar. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we did over here. Okay, so I'm going to do 3/4 times, and then the reciprocal, 16 over negative 7. So let's see, 3 and 7, nah, nothing goes in. 4 and 16, so 4 goes into 16 and 4. So if I divide this by 4, I'll get 1. If I divide this by 4, I get 4. So now I can multiply straight across. 3 times 4 is 12, and 1 times negative 7 is negative 7. And last but not least, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go straight into the rule here. Negative 7/5 times its reciprocal, 7 over negative 3. See, can 3 go into 6 or 7? It sure can, right? 3 goes into 6. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now check this out. A negative divided by negative is a positive, so really I'm going to cross those out as well. So now we're left with 2 times 7 is 14, and 5 times 1 is 5.